10. Amy KUPPS. Former history teacher Amy KUPPS is one of many people who turned to selling adult content as a side hustle in recent years. The 32-year-old was working full-time at a high school in North Carolina last year when staff members became aware of her other job. She was called into a meeting where she was told that her X-rated modeling is against the school's code of conduct, and she was suspended. KUPPS soon found out that her ex-husband had linked her colleagues to the profile she uses for selling revealing photos. He told her that she deserved it and sarcastically wished her luck with her teaching career. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, KUPPS resigned from her teaching position and parlayed her second job into a main gig. She told the press that her ex-husband was jealous of the gifts and attention her followers were showering her with. Since then, KUPPS has reportedly been making nearly $25,000 per month and has the satisfaction of knowing that her ex's mission to ruin her profession only led her to a much more lucrative career. She's even claimed that some of her former colleagues have subscribed to her content and that she not only interacts with them more now, but she's getting paid to do it. 9. Jack Sutton. 23-year-old Cynthia Dolgiova and 24-year-old Jack Sutton met in the Czech Republic in 2020. They soon started dating, and in early 2021, they moved to England with plans to stay there for 2 months before continuing on to Germany. But they ran into visa complications and ended up extending their stay. Things took a dark turn 4 months after the couple moved to Scarborough, when Cynthia found out that Jack had cheated on her. But he talked her into staying with him and threatened to hurt himself if she left. In the meantime, signs that the relationship was unhealthy continued to appear, leaving Cynthia with a nagging feeling that finally gave her the strength to leave Jack and move in with a friend. The former couple met up and talked over dinner one night, and when the young woman wasn't looking, he snatched her ID. She noticed it was missing later that night when she went for drinks with her friend and asked Sutton to give it back. They arranged to meet on a dark street, where Sutton stabbed Cynthia 11 times. A neighbor called the police as the knife got launched into the victim's ribcage. She couldn't get it out and fell to the pavement, where Sutton viciously kicked her in the head. Thankfully, Cynthia recovered from her injuries, although she's been left emotionally traumatized by her ex's raging jealousy. It was later revealed that during their relationship, Sutton had banned her from speaking with her best friend over suspicions relating to Cynthia's ex-boyfriend. He'd refused to meet her friends and family and often accused her of cheating. In hindsight, Cynthia understands that Sutton's behavior was extremely abusive. But, as they say, love is blind, and it makes sense that she wanted to believe that he loved her and was a good person. Sutton was found guilty of attempted murder and will spend at least 16 years in prison before he sees freedom again. 8. Phuong Ratha. Convinced that his wife was seeing other men, a 27-year-old Cambodian man named Phuong Ratha flew into a jealous rage and attacked 23-year-old Lai Sray Nouch at their home in Phnom Penh. He took a meat cleaver to her neck and beheaded her before riding away on his motorcycle with the woman's head in a sack. A neighbor went to check on the couple later that day and found Lai's dismembered remains on the floor. He called police, who launched a manhunt and located Phuong the next day in his hometown 60 miles, 97 kilometers outside the capital. The suspect allegedly admitted that he had decapitated his wife because she was acting differently, leading him to wonder if she was cheating. He said that he didn't beat her before committing the murder and admitted to ditching her head in a nearby garbage dump. Neighbors told investigators that Phuong was violent and that they often overheard him accusing Lai of speaking with other men. In fact, the resident who found the woman's body went over there to check on Lai because he was worried about her safety due to Phuong's abusive tendencies. Phuong remains in custody and will now face the allegations against him in court. 7. Zoe Hopkins. After discovering some text messages between her friend and her boyfriend earlier this year, 34-year-old Zoe Hopkins got drunk and went to the friend's home in Carmarthen, South Wales. She waited outside for the woman to return home and acted like things were fine until they got inside the building, at which point Hopkins attacked her victim from behind and threw her to the floor before smashing her head against the stairs repeatedly. The terrified woman tried fleeing into her apartment, but Hopkins caught up to her and continued the brutal assault, pulling her down by the hair and kicking her in the face while hurling allegations related to the text messages with her boyfriend. A neighbor managed to get the victim inside their apartment and called the police. Hopkins recently pleaded guilty to assault and received a 16-month prison sentence. She'll serve at least half of it in jail before being considered for supervised release. Her lawyer told the court that his client had a difficult upbringing and struggled with substance abuse, but he conceded that there was a degree of jealousy involved in the attack. The disturbing crime only adds to the woman's lengthy list of prior convictions, which includes at least 10 violent offenses. 6. Danielle Redlick. Danielle Redlick married her former stepfather, Michael Redlick, in 2004 after her mother died. They had 2 children and were together for over 15 years when tragedy struck. One night in 2019, when Danielle was in her early 40s, she allegedly stabbed her 65-year-old husband to death in their Winter Park, Florida home during a fight. She was charged with murder, but argued that she acted in self-defense when she plunged the blade into Michael's shoulder. Prosecutors, on the other hand, described encountering a blood-covered horror scene at the couple's home and accused Danielle of trying to clean it up. They also pointed out that she waited 11 hours to dial 911. When she did call for help, Miss Redlick said that she thought maybe her husband had died from a heart attack and told the operator that he felt stiff. When that explanation didn't fly, she tried claiming that he had fatally stabbed himself. Danielle was charged with second-degree murder, at which point she argued self-defense. In court, she claimed that Michael had cheated on her and that he was abusive and jealous. She had left him once before, but he'd persuaded her to return. Their catastrophic final fight happened after Michael found out that Danielle was talking to other men and physically attacked her. A jury acquitted her of the murder charge, but found her guilty of tampering with evidence. She is awaiting sentencing. 5. Nicholas DOUMIT. Nicholas DOUMIT was shocked to find another man in his ex-girlfriend's bedroom when he showed up at her Tampa residence unannounced one night last year. A confrontation between the men ensued and ended with the woman's guest, Carlos Cora, being shot in the leg. Police charged DOUMIT with attempted murder despite his claims that he'd acted in self-defense. In fact, he said that Cora had pulled the gun on him and that he'd managed to wrestle it away from him before discharging it. DOUMIT took the gun with him when he left the scene, later claiming that he was worried that Cora would shoot him with it. Prosecutors accused the defendant of firing a gun in a jealous rage, but a jury found DOUMIT not guilty on the attempted murder charge. They convicted him of a weapons offense, which came with mandatory prison time since he was already a 5-time convicted felon. The judge sentenced DOUMIT to 3 years, reminding him that the jury could have found him guilty and administering a stern caution to stay away from guns in the future. 4. Robert McWhirr. Just days before Christmas in 2018, 26-year-old Robert McWhirr drowned his on-and-off girlfriend, 29-year-old Marissa Aldrich, in a 4-inch deep, 10-centimeter drainage pond in Cambridgeshire, England. The pair had left a party and were walking in the town of St. Neots when they began to argue. Things got physical, and the fight ended up with Aldrich face up and unresponsive in the water. Passing motorists stopped and pulled Marissa from the water and attempted to give her CPR, but it was unfortunately too late to save the mother of 2. McWhirr initially tried to claim that the tragedy happened after he tried to clamber over the woman due to his phobia of water. But investigators didn't buy it, and the evidence suggested that something much more sinister had taken place. A forensic pathologist determined that Aldrich had drowned while being restrained based on the fluid in her lungs. The silt found in her teeth, airways and stomach, bruises, and other signs of a violent death that were found during an autopsy. A friend who'd called McWhirr during the fatal beating recalled hearing him say that he was killing her for talking to other men as he pressed her face into the ground. The judge accused McWhirr of killing Aldrich out of jealousy and possessiveness, along with paranoia that she was still seeing her ex-boyfriend from before him and was taking an interest in other suitors. He was sentenced to life in prison. 3. Martin Burns. When Amanda McManus met Martin Burns during her 20s, she had no idea that her life would soon become a living hell. Things got serious and the pair moved in together and had kids. After the couple's honeymoon phase passed, Burns became extremely controlling and abusive toward Amanda, keeping her cooped up in their home in Johnston, Scotland. He checked her phone constantly, accused her of having affairs, and never let her see friends or family, according to Amanda, who recently spoke with the Daily Record. Burns even became jealous of the woman's close relationship with her father, telling her that she didn't need anybody but him. Amanda said that Burns told her that nobody would believe her if she reported the abuse, because most of it wasn't physical. he also made her feel financially dependent on him. One day, Burns allegedly branded his first initial, the letter M, into Amanda's back and then snapped photos and laughed. By then, the couple had kids together, and Amanda was becoming increasingly concerned for their safety. It had also become clear that they were psychologically traumatized by the things they'd seen go on between their parents. Scared that police wouldn't believe her but not knowing what else to do, she reported the abuse. Knowing that her kids' well-being depended on a successful case, Amanda stood her ground and self-advocated while Burns faced his day in court. A judge granted long-term protective orders to Amanda and her kids and sentenced Burns to 250 hours of unpaid work. He's also required to participate in a rehabilitative program for men convicted of domestic abuse and will be under supervision for 2 years. Now that she's gotten her life back after enduring her ex's cruelty for 7 grueling years, Amanda says she wants to help other women and kids who are suffering at the hands of an abusive partner. 2. GAYLYN Morris. 26-year-old Andre Smith was in an Indianapolis parking garage in the early morning hours recently when he was fatally mowed down by a Chevy Impala. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect, 26-year-old GAYLYN Morris, was taken into custody on suspicion of murder. Court documents claim that Morris had entered a nearby bar where Smith was drinking with another woman. She allegedly said that she'd stalked the man using small Apple GPS devices known as AirTags and threw a beer bottle at Smith's companion. Things got heated between the parties and the staff kicked them out. Smith and Morris left the building while the woman he was with waited for her food to be bagged to go, at which point Morris got into her car and rammed into him. According to witnesses, she backed up over him and ran him over several times before exiting the vehicle and trying to go after his female friend. Morris reportedly told police that she and Smith lived together and that she'd recently started to suspect that he was spending time with someone else. When she didn't hear from him for an entire day, she told him he should pack up and move out, by which point she'd already planted a GPS in his car. She said that she didn't mean for Smith to end up beneath her car, and that she'd actually meant to hit the woman she'd caught him out with. Her case is scheduled to go on trial later this year. 1. Mikey Keenan. When his short-lived relationship with a woman in Teesside, England ended last year, 21-year-old Mikey Keenan embarked on a seemingly relentless campaign of harassment against his ex-girlfriend, torturing her with incessant text messages and even breaking into her home one night. When she returned home the next day, she found flowers, salad, and a letter on her bed. The unwanted gifts made her extremely uncomfortable, but Keenan's terrifying behavior only escalated. One night, while out with her new partner, the woman received a threatening text. Later that night, they discovered that her current boyfriend's car had been vandalized. Keenan eventually took things far enough for police to arrest him. Throughout the court proceedings, it was revealed that his concerning behavior had started long ago. Just 1 month into the relationship, he allegedly became extremely jealous and would deliberately start arguments with the victim over text while she was out. He also couldn't stand that she worked in a bar and interacted with other men as a part of her job. One night, after visiting friends, the couple got into a heated argument and Keenan threatened to smash the woman's face in. The judge described Keenan as immature and imposed an 18-month community order, which is designed to require offenders to treat any issues they have to avoid reoffending. He was also sentenced to 100 hours of unpaid labor and was banned from contacting his victim for 5 years. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have a jealous co-worker who routinely tries to sabotage your chances of a promotion, or a strange neighbor who copies everything you do as if they're trying to be just like you? Let us know which one would be worse in the comments below.